Hi there, having faith through the flames, and today is Wednesday. Today we're going to be talking about triggers and trigger warnings. You've seen it, you're watching a YouTube video and it'll black out and say, trigger warning, which is their way of saying something unpleasant's about to be shown on this screen. You hear a lot of people nowadays talking about being triggered or that triggers me. What that means is something from their past is being activated and it's causing them distress in the present. A lot of people call this PTSD. Sometimes it can be from something small or something big. But my question is, what happens when you are being triggered? What happens when something unpleasant pops its ugly little head up in your life? Let's turn to the Bible and see what it has to say. Pull out that handy dandy Bible you have with you, and we are going to go, for our glasses, number 1, and we are going to go to Colossians. We're going to be at 3:15. Let's see what the Bible says. And let the peace of Christ rule your hearts, to which indeed you were called in one body, and be thankful. That seems like a nice pretty box with a very pretty bow on it and say, here you go. It's not easy to come here and be like, that's what I need right now. But I wanted to hit that one because when you're in the middle of crisis, when you're in the middle of going through something very difficult, being triggered is something that just happens. At the beginning of this year, I was so excited. And I told you guys, I'm going to be closer to God and I'm going to let things go. I'm going to let God take control. Jesus, take the wheel. And then, whoop, bam. My channel kind of stopped producing videos. Life hit me hard. It wasn't all of it. There were wonderful things that happened. I got married and that took a lot of my time. And we were deciding where we were moving and that took a lot of time. And then I was in a car crash. And I'm still dealing with it. And it just has progressively been one thing after another. And I realized that I had been slowly walking away. I'd been slowly trying to take care of things myself. And everything began to trigger me. Everything reminded me of that car crash. Just driving along and seeing a car in my peripheral, I would jump or I would scream, or not scream, but that thing, the thing guys hate. But those are called triggers. Anything that activates that information from the past is a trigger. But how I know that I'm a child of God, how I know that God is within me, is what happens after I've been triggered. I learned this at church on Saturday night. That's not my normal day to go to church. But God used it to help me understand what I'm going through. Because in the past, I've been a Christian my whole life, but I haven't exactly lived a Christian life all the time. I did go away and then come back. And during that going away, when I got triggered, I didn't do the best things. I would turn to alcohol, or I would turn to relationships or turn to eating. Oh my goodness, I still have a problem of turning to eating when I'm really triggered. Or I won't eat. I'll abstain from eating for a really long time when I'm triggered. These are all reactions to that trigger. And how I know that Christ is within me and Christ is working in me and that I am with Christ and He is my Father, is now when I'm triggered, I don't run to those things. I know a lot of people can have a lot of things. They go shopping, they can watch porn, they can go and do things that are just not exactly the best things to do. But when Christ is within you, you don't go running to the world. When you're triggered, you go running to Him. I had the most amazing example of this just recently. I watched people who were going through the hardest thing I can ever imagine happening. Something where it's completely out of your hands and it's the world coming down and just attacking you and coming at you from all sides. And oh, that's not good enough. Bam, here's this too. They're going through the hardest thing I can possibly imagine. And they didn't run to the world. They didn't run to food. They didn't run to those things that the world promises will give you peace and happiness. They ran to God. And they said, God, I don't know how to do this. This is in your hands. Please save us. Please walk us through this. Be with us as we go through this and help us to know that in your hands, everything will be okay. Because this does not end in the gutter. This does not end in this valley. It ends on a mountaintop because in your word you have promised that peace is with you. Just like Colossians 3:15 says, in you, Christ, is peace. He gives us peace. And I watched as what would have thrown me over the edge and caused me to just lay in my bed and not be able to function. I watched as they grew closer and closer and closer to God. I watched as they prayed and they sang and they worshiped together. Their marriage became so much stronger. Their happiness, joy, peace became so much more evident that I almost could not stand not being around them. God moved in their lives to the point that even when they prayed outside, the animals would come to them. They would be praying outside and their dogs would sit with them. They would notice squirrels were on the deck. They would notice animals and even bugs would just start coming around them and not bothering them, but listening to them. This is God, you guys. So when you get triggered, when you go through hard things, do you run to the world or do you run to God? Where do you go when things get hard? Where do you go when that thing inside of you peeks up its ugly little head and goes, hi, how are ya? It's hard sometimes to remember that the world cannot offer anything during these times, but God can offer you everything. So you guys, I hope you remember when hard times come, run to God. Know that when you're triggered, He'll give you peace. He'll soothe that pain. He'll walk with you through it. Not just help you through it, He will walk with you through it. I hope this helped you guys out. I love you so very much, and until next week, bye.